So one of the things that you'll experience as you wake are time bleeds, and one of the time bleeds I wanted to talk about was ruins. Ruins are phenomenal places for some of them to experience time bleeds, and what that's a word I use. I don't know if I've come across other people using it or if they use it in a different way. Remember that when I use labels that I've created to explain this to people, to kind of like explain a concept and give them a label they can use easily in conversation. Sometimes there are other ones that other definitions, but my definition of a time bleed is you're sitting somewhere, you're driving your car, or whatever you're experiencing, right? You're experiencing, and all of a sudden you're driving down the road in New Mexico. It's the middle of the night, and you start seeing giant prehistoric trees that reach hundreds of feet into the sky, and you're like, wait a second, this is a desert. And when I say desert, I mean flat, no juniper trees, no dunes, nothing, just flat nothingness. And you're like, where did these trees come from? Because that's not the road you're on, type of thing. That's a true story too. I had that happen in New Mexico one night. And so these time bleeds happen where all time, the first thing to understand is that time doesn't truly exist in a linear way the way we experience it. It exists in a very multi-dimensional way, very everything happens now sort of way. And so we can wake and experience time outside of our own time, outside of our own moment. And when you go to ruins, there's a lot of energy around the ruins about what happened, what was going on. And a lot of the people that lived in these ruins are, were awake for their cultures, and especially indigenous ruins. Indigenous ruins, I've been to several sites and first of all, I'm not a archaeologist. I haven't been like all over the world and all that. The sites I've been to are few and far between, but the ones I have been to have been very energetically active. And I've even found some sites that people don't go to where you go off the beaten path and you find just like a bunch of rocks piled, or an old fire pit that was built really really long time ago, and you can feel the energy around it because people were doing ceremonies and rituals and all this in that space. And there are some indigenous structures, pueblos and other things where I've been there, and I'll never forget walking up to one of the pueblos in Arizona and like feeling the remembrance of it, of living there, and my guide's saying like, you're gonna cry, you used to live there, like this was part of you, used to be here, type of thing. And here it wasn't this specific one, it's one that I haven't been to yet because you kind of need a four-wheel drive, like all-terrain vehicle to get to it, but close enough that I was having the remembrance and knowing I was there because of the close proximity of these other ones that were around, and going up with the tour guide, I guess, but then actually seeing the the paintings on the walls and different things, and like seeing it, like seeing the flashes of people there, seeing the memory, feeling the memory of it. So then that trip, when that happened, I was being activated to a lot of this past life types of things with these ruined areas. And I went to another pueblo area so the first one I went to was very much intact. You could see it. It had walls. You could see the chimney area, all this other stuff. The next one I went to, they had excavated a lot of it, but you couldn't, like, a lot of the walls had been destroyed. When they excavated, they're excavating 2-3 feet of a wall, and there's not much else there. But they had a couple rooms that were really big, and there was a communal room. And this communal room was just a big area that had a brick wall, or Pueblos used the bricks that they were using. they're the brick walls, and there was a like um, stone, or somehow they had created these benches that were out of mud and clay and that sort of thing that had hardened over time, and you could go sit down in that space. So I went and sat down in that space, and what was fascinating is I had a time bleed, and I had this time bleed where I'm sitting there and I'm just like relaxed, not meditating, but getting into that kind of glazed state where, and if that was the cat, if you heard her, um, getting into this glazed state where I can just feel the energy more. And I start seeing indigenous people sitting around this communal area. And at one point, I see like a shaman. I think she would be, or a medicine. She might be more of a medicine woman for that culture. But there's a woman there. You can tell she's conscious. She has power, and she sees me, and she's just like, almost like gets very upset that I'm there, like superstitiously upset that I'm there. And I have to like, I'm like, oh, pull my energy back, something's off. And then I'm sitting there at one point, and I see Spaniards sitting in those same seats, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, there's a bunch of like Spaniards in armor, like they've got that traditional conquistador-y armor type stuff where they were running around with back when they were wearing that type of thing, and exploring into these areas before we had really taken over all of North America, and decimated the native populations too in doing so. So there were Spaniards there, and I'm like, okay, I jumped from these beings to these Spaniard people, and I can hear them speaking Spanish. Now I have 4 years of Spanish, I think, between high school and college, and I'm not fluent in it, but I can understand it enough. And I don't remember what they were saying, but I remember like, I'll never forget sitting there like, oh, they're not going to see me. They're not going to see me. And then one of them looking over and just being like pale as a ghost and being like, Dios mío, something like that. I forget. I can't. I have trouble speak, so I can understand when it's one of those things where somebody speaks Spanish to me, I can pick out the words and understand it enough, but I can't speak it as well. But I think it's like Dios mío, like, oh my God, is what they were saying, and saw me, and I was just like, oh no, gotta get out of here type of thing. So this area was full of energy because people had visited it so much. The indigenous culture was probably practicing rituals and things in the communal area. You had the Spaniards there, which would have been a heightened energy of like war and raiding and all this other stuff that when they came through, they were, conquering people, that type of conquering energy. So you have all this intense emotional energy, and in those spaces, it builds up the energy where it makes it really easy for you just to sit there and like start to see what actually was going on and bleed through time. Like time starts to bleed together, and they can see, those who are awake can like see you, and it's like you're a ghost in some senses to them, because you're in your now moment, but you're seeing them like they're a ghost, like they're see-through. You can see them, and they're see-through, and they're moving around, and like things change, but it's not firm, it's not in form, it's more energy. And then they see you, and it's kind of like they're seeing you in that energy space, like you're a ghost too. So it's very interesting. You may experience things like that, and if you're somebody who goes to ruins and things, always be careful. Make sure you're energetically protecting yourself, and have your divine team with you, and doing, having your sovereignty, essentially being in your sovereign state. and in a high, good, strong energy state. But if you go to ruins and you just sit there and kind of relax your mind and not, you can meditate if you want, but relax your mind and open your eyes and just let your eyes kind of relax, glaze over, you might actually start seeing time bleed around you and experiencing like people walking around, and sometimes they see you and that sort of thing. Or you know, being in a space where you're not letting your mind, you're not meditating or anything, but you're driving down the road at night and all of a sudden you're seeing prehistoric trees. Or I've had dinosaurs run by, legitimate dinosaurs. I've seen them run by in time bleeds. I've seen castles pop out of nowhere, trees, animals. Uh, Usually it's beings that I see, because they're moving. They're moving around and they're conscious too. But I'll go into more in that in time. I have a lot of stuff to talk about in that capacity. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Love you all. If you enjoyed this video, find it useful, please consider a spirit art reading, divine counsel transmission, those sorts of things you can find on my website, awakenwithwillow.com. Thank you. Love you all.